is Iana Sundari, and I travel full-time with my husband, John. We are in a 1998 Thomas Freightliner school bus. We were living in Miami and sold everything and bought the bus in April of 2019 and spent about 8 months, 9 months converting it. And then hit the road in like October, and we've been on the road full time. We are parked right now in my best friend's driveway in Boxborough, Massachusetts.
Cool. Wow, you're really on the other side of the Massachusetts from all the way from Florida.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a trip. So we did our build in North Carolina. And we went from North Carolina back south, and then we went west, and then all the way up. And the plan was to head into Banff for the summer, and then COVID hit. So we came back across. So yeah, we did the full lap.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So what got you into this lifestyle? Like, what made you want to, buy what made you want to do this?
Well, my husband and I were living in Miami. When I met him, I had just gotten back from Italy, and my plan was I was selling all my stuff and I was moving to Italy. And he was in the process of buying a houseboat, or starting that process of converting a houseboat. And then Hurricane, I think it was Irma, hit Miami, and his boat where it was parked was demolished. And we got in, but like we met right at that time, and so we started talking about alternative living, and I don't remember exactly how we found like schoolie and van life, but we went to the Tiny House Festival in Elkton, Florida, and within 3 months we were like, we're done. On the way out, we were planning on like how to get rid of stuff. We were also both like, I work at the time I was working as a birth doula. So a lot of my work was in person, but a lot of it was online. And he's entirely online because he's a graphic designer. And so we were sitting in this like 2,100 square foot apartment in Miami, but on the couch, like we weren't going anywhere. We weren't using our cars. And it kind of felt like we are wasting a ton of money, and we could be traveling and doing this exact same thing on the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like alternative living, as well as just, having more control or say over your finances was that fair to say? That was those are like two really good reasons why you chose this lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it was finances. Like we were paying an incredible amount of rent and car notes and just the price of living in Miami. It was also, we were both huge travelers and had spent a lot of time overseas, but hadn't spent a lot of time traveling in the US. When we began the tour, I was doing a 22 city meditation tour. And so it was also a way of connecting with students. And the idea was that we were observing and documenting how peace shows up in different states, which is interesting that we're now in the state of time that we are. But that's how this tour began. And it began as a tour called Namaste USA. And so the purpose really was to bring peace as we traveled.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I love you see each other online, you know what I mean? But when you actually get to talking and learning what their interests are and what they do, it's always like
you learn more.
Yeah. It's always such an experience. So I'm hearing a lot of I know you were already gonna come back from Italy, sell all your stuff, and then go back. And I mean, of course, you still kind of fell in that selling everything. So, before we get to the van tour, do you want to talk a little bit more about that experience of selling all your stuff, or really kind of that minimalism? Because we have a lot of people who, I'm sorry, my hair is like a thing.
That's why I know, I'm in Bantu knots today because I was like, I can't.
I'm tripping right now. Hold on, sorry. Let me X this out really quick. I'm sorry. But so, we have a lot of people in our community, hopeful nomads, who are like, I have a house, I have cars, and, you know what I mean, all these responsibilities, and taking that transition from, you know, having all of these, you know, devices and, you know, all of this stuff, and then transitioning into like a relatively smaller space, they get kind of hesitant in that idea of like, I'm going to sell everything, or I'm going to sell most of my stuff and do this life-changing experience. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that? I know you already had that seed in you, because you were already like, I'm going back to Italy. But, you know, for some people who are, you know, not necessarily on that same kind of wavelength, you want to kind of explain that transition period?
Yeah, I think even though I was on the wavelength of going to Italy, I was not thinking like, and I'm going to bounce around and travel. In my head, it was like, I'm going to rent an Airbnb. I'm going to be stationary. Like, it was a very stationary kind of idea. The nomadic life is different. And I found when it came time to like, okay, I cannot take all of this stuff, we really came up with a plan. Like, one, we did our layout on our condo floor. And so we really moved into the layout. We taped out our layout on our condo floor. We put stuff into that layout and really lived with that layout in the apartment for a while. So that let us see like what we really had space for and what we didn't. I think that even though he and I, so he's from St. Louis and I'm originally from New York, and we had done a lot of moving around. So like, I thought I didn't have a lot of stuff. It was unbelievable how much crap I was holding on to. And like, you start to look at stuff and you're like, I'm holding on to stuff that's like, because maybe one day it'll rain and I'll want to wear these sweatpants. Like, just ridiculous stuff. Like, and it took a lot of, I think, emotional work for me to let go of things that I thought were really important. I feel like there were times when it was really enjoyable, because there was certainly like a freeing, like, oh my God, just to purge, to get through all of your stuff, to figure out what needs to intentionally be part of your life energetically and what doesn't. Some of it was really painful, and like, you don't realize how attached you are to your things. I think being in the bus has really taught me how much none of that mattered. It makes you so focused on making every space something that's useful and functional. And so I only want stuff that I really need. And I find that now I purge a lot, because I'm still like, I don't need this. I don't need this, which feels good. Like, for me, it really became, I think for both of us, a matter again of like what matters. So I had lost my parents. For me, it was like, I want their records, I want their photographs, I want like stuff like that. I don't need 10 pairs of jeans and 20 pairs of shoes. Like, you know, it was really what I felt like on the road while traveling, what was going to make me feel comfortable and safe. But I find that it was true what we saw on YouTube when everyone said they lived in a bus and they were like, I could totally go down to a van and I could, now this feels like too much space. Weirdly enough, it does. I could go smaller. Like, we have so much space and that's great. But I feel like the living minimally really teaches you how nice it is to live minimally. And I feel like you just keep wanting to get smaller. And so I think that's where we're at. Like, love what we're doing, but the plan is also to do a van after this and head overseas after this, and just keep whittling it down. I'm gonna have like a backpack and a harmonica by the end of this, but
you know, it's beautiful because, you know, we're in a van and you know, we can definitely like empathize, like.
For sure.
Yeah, because I mean, like, we had a lot of stuff when we first got into the van, relatively in a van, you know, but it was like
we knocked it down, man. We just kept dwindling it down. I think we went through a whole like basically cleaning it out. It was like back in the summer, and we just cleaned everything out, man. We was just like, yeah, we don't need this. We don't need this. Really don't need this. And then we found out like how much space we really had after we got rid of everything. It was like, yo, we got mad storage space. Like, we have mad just space to put stuff in and to organize better. So it was needed.
Yeah, now we have like access space, because before it was like every crease, every corner. You know, like, now we have like it was. Because like, I was like, oh, I need all this. Like, what if, you know? But yeah, now we actually have like empty space
Yeah.
that we can fill with things that, you know, we actually need or apply more to who we are today. So yeah, that's awesome.
Also,
Yes.
like, when you get on the road, you realize like I do not need all these clothes. I change my clothes like twice. You know, like I don't need all these shoes. I wear the same flip flops every single day. Like, you know, there's one pair of sneakers at the front door. Like I didn't need as much as I thought. If anything, we just keep looking for space to add stuff that makes it more like when we're in the desert, what do we need? You know, when you're in the mountains, what do you need? Like spaces for blankets. And like that to me seems important, but like all the other stuff, why be bothered?
True.
Well, that's really helpful advice because, like I said, you know, so many people, you know, message us and they're like, you know, how do I, you know, almost funnel down my life into the necessities? And I think that's something that I think people in general struggle with is like, what do I need? You know, because we think what we want is what we need. You know, it's a whole thing. So
it is a whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get a look at your schooling. I would love to see.
So my husband's gonna hold it, and I'll walk around and describe stuff.
Of course.
That sounds good. Yeah, I do need that.
Okay, so maybe we'll start at the front.
How you turn the thing around?
Oh, so we have to figure out how to turn this around. Hold on. Okay, I think. I think that's it. Yep.
Is it? All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm working. I'm just.
Oh, you cool, man. Take your time. Take your time.
Do this. I guess we'll start at the front. So, like I said, we're in a 1998 Thomas Freightliner. So the front is like our entertainment system. Keep our entertainment center. So we keep like our bookshelf, our records. Those were my parents' records. So again, like the things that you want to hold on to that are necessities. To the right here over the front door. So we have 10 corporate sponsors on board. One of them is Go Power Solar. And so this is our solar panel. We have 6 panels on the roof, 190 watts each. We have 8 deep cycle AGM batteries that are 220 amp hours. And so this is like our panel. Over the driver's side window, we built like this little this little holder and something to hold hats. Then we have one of my favorite things, which is the altar. This altar is also a dog crate. So we don't as she's standing right in front of it. We have our pit bull Anna on board. But this we've never really used. It truthfully was for border crossings, which we haven't done yet, but this latch opens and she can go in there, but it's also my altar. If you come to the couch area, so right now it's all broken apart and we're actually going to build this out before we head into the desert later this month. But all of these pieces are storage. And so everything lifts up. Tons of storage. This table folds all the way out to seat 6. I don't think I'm going to lift it up.
You can just pull it out.
Here, let me put this up here. So this table folds all the way out to seat 6, and you can add another table leg, but it also folds down against the wall, and there's another piece of the couch that slides into here. So when it's out, you can seat 6 people to eat or hang out, because 3 on that side and 3 on this side. Otherwise, we use it to work. We just built this, or John. First of all, I should mention, John designed and custom built all of this. I'm more of a stander helper. Stainer. But this, he actually built yesterday. And so this is our new little like ledge. And again, we keep things functional. So just keeping all the stuff that when you're sitting on the couch, you need. When you're walking back, this is the piece of the couch that sits where that table is. So normally this isn't here, but we're working at that table today. This table folds up and down and is another little office space. And then we created this office space with using like a cork wall or cork board and then keeping our calendar. As you come through the kitchen, we put in, what am I saying in here? Oh, so these windows I really love. These are French windows and they open outward. The mason jars hold all of like our rice and flowers and lentils. We travel a lot, so like we keep our masks, and like this was from Tulum. If you come through, you can see our cabinets. So again, just thinking of what's really functional. Before we put stuff in these cabinets at home in Miami, we measured our like appliances, juicers, Instant Pot. And so every drawer really fits what goes in there. We have some cool features in here, one of them being the cutting board that slides out. Also, these we repurposed crates. And so they carry, this is actually like booze, this is potatoes, and then bread. We use a 2-burner cooktop. I'll tell you, we're changing this out. It's electric. We're changing it to propane. Also, 2 burners does not work for us. We cook a lot, so we're going to move to a 4-burner and install it into the countertop. So we're still building. We've been traveling and building, traveling and building. This is our Omnia oven, another one of our sponsors, and it's actually an oven, and it's awesome. You can put it on a grill or on a cooktop, but we do everything in here. Our spices, which I really love, keeps things organized and labeled. If you come across, we got a regular size refrigerator. I think this is a 10.5 cubic foot. Tons of storage. So this pantry slides out. And so John can show you what that looks like. Slides all the way out. All of these open, so like a ton of food storage. It goes all the way back. And then this opens and we keep like brooms and chairs and stuff. So when you come from the front to the back, there's actually going to be a door here, which we're building again before we leave at the end of this month. And it's a pocket door. And so this is what we call like our master suite. So our bathroom, we built our composting toilet. We have a little, so we got like a seat from Lowe's, like a soft close, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Soft close toilet seat. And built it because composting toilets are really expensive, and this cost us $75, and it works perfectly. So we use peat moss. It is the urine goes down into a gray tank, but otherwise we just change out the peat moss bag, and there's 0 smells, and it works really well. We did different wallpapers on our ceiling. So there's 3 to break up the space. So this is like our jungle theme in the bathroom. The front has more of like a cathedral look, which it's all wallpaper. So we bought that at like Home Depot or Lowe's. Lowe's. And so then you come through and there's the jungle wallpaper, and the bedroom has the black and white. When you come into the bathroom, we built this vanity area. So he measured everything so the shelves match exactly what you put on them. We got this bowl at Walmart, and he used, what's that called? A diamond grinder?
Yeah, diamond hole saw.
A diamond hole saw to cut a hole in it. And then we have this cool faucet, and that's our bathroom sink. This is the vanity that he created. So everything might have doors and might not. We actually really like it, but I love that it's this cool space. When you are standing here under the back emergency exit, this is being replaced by plexiglass this week. So each emergency exit vent space is going to be plexiglass. So they'll all be skylight. We did a roof raise of 14 inches, but we also did a floor raise of 6 inches. And we cut our wheel wells down. So that lets you get a flat layout. If you come through here where it's all backer board, this is going to be tiled. And this hexagon space, or kind of hexagon space, is where we're dropping in a bathtub. So there's a 6-inch gap in the floor. And so you can drop a tub right into here. And then like we already did our piping, we use PEX piping. And so this is like where the shower will be connected. Another sponsor is Nebbia by Moen. And so that's what we're going to install into the shower. Not done yet. So for now, we bathe either outside using the solar shower, or we bird bath it inside. When you come into the bath, we kept it super dark. So black, we kept the emergency door at the back, so that does open. And then this bed is all storage. So if you lift this up, so we built all this, it's on strut. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's all filled with clothes. It goes all the way back and really deep. There's 4 drawers built underneath the bed, which is like underwear, socks, bathing suits, all my head scarves, stuff like that. And then all of our shoes go all the way underneath and back. So we have a garage underneath our bed because of that floor difference and the roof raise, when you enter from the back door underneath the bed and about halfway into the bed is a garage where we keep all of our suitcases, camping stuff, our grill. Over the bed we have sconces, and then we built little hooks to keep book bags. And then it's like our hamper area. So again, like personal items in the basket, and this lifts up and it's really deep. It's huge. And we can keep all of our dirty clothes in here. So we don't have a hamper. A washer and dryer. Pre-COVID, we were doing it on the road. I think when we head back out to the desert, we're going to do exactly what our ancestors did and do it by hand and hang it outside. And that is it. Yeah.
Oh, can you show us the outside of it? Just like the outside of your bus?
Yeah, we'll head outside. So we are in Boxborough, Massachusetts right now, parked at my friend's house. So we did also, I don't know if you can see on the floor, we'll show you when you come into the entrance, excuse some of our mess, but we did bamboo floors, which we got on Facebook Marketplace. On the left, these are trees we sourced from North Carolina from a hurricane. And so now those are like little hooks for bags. There's a little area for sunglasses, walkie-talkies. Okay, so when you come outside, the bus is a mess right now because we're parked. But we are all white. Again, we took out most of our windows. We only have the French windows on the left, the skylights in the top, and the bathroom window. That was for like temperature and insulation and also for privacy. And so we're primarily blacked out except for like the big green stripe. Also, that's where you access our water. So when you're filling water, we have a 65-gallon water tank that's built into the corner of the kitchen. And so there's the access point from the outside. If you come around the front, you can see what it looks like just from the front. It's too hard to show you the panels, and then we have banks on the outside, which right now is covered by like tarp, but that's where our solar batteries are kept. So this is Eula May.
Eula May. Oh, that's beautiful.
We'll come inside and I guess I'll sit and we'll flip the camera back around.
Cool. I love the trees. I've always wanted that. Like, right, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where they repurpose those trees and it's like,
oh.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yeah, I was just saying what my favorite part was. I like at the very end where you had like the repurposed trees and they're like kind of like stacked up, and it's like when you had the hooks and stuff like that. Yeah, that was dope.
That was dope, man. But it's a beautiful build.
Oh, thank you. We did everything ourselves. We had zero experience. We learned everything on YouTube. We did the welding, the building, all of it, the two of us in Carolina. And it was difficult, but awesome. And we're still building, like we're going to do our shower. We're going to do this couch. But we moved in like a month after we started. So we moved in when we had subfloors on an air mattress with nothing else. And we just lived and built and then hit the road.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
It is, man.
It is.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your budget. Like, how much was your van, and what was your budget for your build out?
So we bought the bus for $3,100. We got it on Craigslist from What's interesting about North Carolina, this might be in other states also, but this is where I know about it, is there's a lot of pickle farmers. And so they buy buses, school buses, and they cut the back off and they just keep the cab and like the whatever you call that, right? So they buy them multiples at a time and then they resell the ones they don't need. So some guy had bought this bus, he bought 3, he only needed 1, and so he was selling the other 2. So it came from a charter school. I think it had like 20,000 miles on it. Like that was it.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so that was 3,100. Our build so far, not including sponsorship, has been just like cash. I think it's been 19,000. And then we have about 15,000 in sponsorship. And that's not cash, that's product. But we put in like 18, 19, and then we still have to do the couch and the shower, but that will come into under 1,000 for both. And then we're basically done. Like that was really all we had left, except you're always kind of doing something, but that
the work's never really done.
No. Those are our last 2 big things. And so I think we'll cap at 20, and that's including the cost of the bus.
Okay.
Cool. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's actually really good. That's very affordable,
yes,
you know, especially with, COVID and, a lot of people are exploring like alternative housing options. So I think that's very like affordable, you know what I mean? Affordable and accessible to like a good price point, you know what I mean? It's a reachable price point. So
I think if you recognize that you do not have to do that all at once, like we did it as we traveled, and you built what you had money for, and you sourced, like you didn't just go to one store, you sourced multiple stores, and you look for materials, and you go on Facebook Marketplace. But we didn't start with some bank account that was just like, oh, we're just gonna fund this and be great. Like that would have been cool. We were working and we did what we could. And you just keep going, and like it gets more and more comfortable, and so you just enjoy it more and more. I think living in it when you're building it, it's stressful, but it also teaches you what you really need. And so I suggest going slow. Like you don't know what you want really until you're out there. And so there's nothing wrong with being like, I'm just going to make this livable, and then I'm going to figure it out when I see what my needs are. And you need so much less than you think you do, that, I think you can find that it can be very affordable to do this.
So how do you park with the schoolie? We have a van, so, for us, we kind of fall under the same rules as like a small vehicle. But, in your travel, so, I mean, how do you guys do like RV parks, or how does that work?
No, so we actually have only done, I think, 2 RV parks since we've been on the road full time. So there's apps, which a lot of people know, like Campendium and iOverlander. But outside of that, can you guys see me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're frozen, but we can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. We use Google Maps a lot. John is really good at looking at just like neighborhoods on a map and being like, this looks like it's kind of deserted. Because we do have solar, we're able to be off grid, so we don't have to plug in. And so we, like in New Orleans, we lived outside of the French Quarter for I think a month and a half. We were just parked on a side street. You don't always have to be in some designated area that's for you. I recommend doing research. But we have found deserted side streets. We also do truck stops. We do Walmart. When we're on the West Coast, like we're heading back to Arizona at the end of this month to spend the winter there, it's all BLM land. So we stayed in a ton of BLM land. We found it to be like, it's so nice. It's so expansive. Outside of like Lake Havasu, we really didn't run into a lot of people. And so you have like entire deserts to yourself and nobody's bothering you.
Yeah. We were in New Mexico, was it?
Yeah,
we were at, it was amazing.
Yeah, I think you just, like it's so much easier now to travel and work and stay connected than it used to be. I don't know how people did it. You know, van life has always been around, right? I don't know how people did it in the 70s and kept up work and everything else, but now it's like it's honestly so accessible. But yeah, we've had good luck. So
So how do you guys do? You guys have like your own internet set up, or do you use like a hotspot?
so we are still working on figuring out the internet thing. Right now, we each have our phones, we each have hotspots on them, and then we have a booster for our cell signal. What we realized is that really only works if you're connected to a signal, if there is a signal nearby. What we need to figure out is how to be like totally in the middle of nowhere and have it pick up something. So we're getting like this antenna and some other, I could not give you all the details. But we do have to fine tune that. We did find that BLM land tends to have decent Wi-Fi. If not, there's already reviews about how the Wi-Fi is. And so it's kind of easy to decide, like, okay, we can't go there because 20 people have said there's no service. But we're getting better. We started out on the road with just our phones, and it really was like, you know, every few months, the East Coast was easier, the South was hard. The middle of the country becomes like real dead zones. And so I think just you figure out, like, as you travel, what your work style is, and how often you have to be online, how often you want to be alone and off grid. Because you could stay connected to cities by just bouncing off their Wi-Fi, honestly. We've definitely parked outside a couple restaurants and just logged into there.
That too.
We've definitely done it. It's harder now though with COVID because so many places are closed that you being parked outside, either their Wi-Fi is not on or it's more obvious that you're there. But it's a fine tuning process we're figuring out. But we've been pretty lucky. I mean, we both have jobs and we did it for a year on the road. So we figured it out.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's super cool, you know, because I think that's like, you know, a lot of people transitioning into this lifestyle, that's like a bigger concern too. It's like, well, you know, working digitally, and if I'm going to do that, how am I going to have internet, and, you know, figure out kind of that end of things. So, you know, that was even super helpful for us, because I think we are ourselves.
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah, we're still trying to navigate that as well. So yeah, that was awesome. That was super awesome. So I have about like 2 more questions. These questions are going to be a little bit more, or maybe 3. I don't know. I'll go for it. But you know, I really kind of want to you know, like discuss a little bit about you know, Black people in the Black community, not only being represented in the overall tiny home community, but also how you feel about the importance for Black people to you know, get involved in this lifestyle. So my first question is going to be, you know, why do you think that alternative housing opportunities should be discussed and advertised in the Black community, or kind of the importance of alternative housing lifestyles like tiny home living is important in the Black community?
I think one of the things that I find like so beautiful about this life is that it allows you to not just like customize your rig, but you are literally customizing your life. I think that it forces you to pay attention to what brings you joy and happiness. And I think in a time when the world is looking to rob us of our joy and happiness, it's up to us to cultivate opportunities where there is space to hold for that. I think choosing to live differently and not attached to systems that clearly are not there to serve us would behoove the Black community. I think that there's a certain amount of, when you're out on the road, you're able to, now I'm going to say this with a caveat of, still as Black people living in this life, we do not travel with the same freedoms as white people. And I think that's important to acknowledge. However, I do think you are able to access levels of freedom which you can't when you're living the typical, like, you know, socially accepted life. I think it's important for us to speak up because people tend to go where they are mirrored and represented. I think what I find disappointing about the outdoor spaces and sometimes van life as a whole is that we still, even in this community, are represented as white women um, in Instagram worthy vans and buses. And I think that sends a message to people who are not the majority that they're not here and so they shouldn't join. I think for too long it's been looked at as these are white activities, and they're not. And I think the more of us that are here, the more of us that are showing up and being vocal and showing that we are out here and thriving, I think you begin to show other Black people and people of color that this is a possibility, and it should be a necessity to figure out, especially right now, what brings you peace and happiness.
That's good. So why do you think, why do you think that there is a neglect of Black representation in, the outdoor community? I'm going to kind of use them all in kind of the same breath: the outdoor community, tiny home living, and more specifically the van life community. Why do you think that we're underrepresented, or not really? Well, yeah, underrepresented in these communities.
I think there's a lot that plays into that. I think one is that when we look at like social media, which all of us are on at this point all day, every day, companies that represent outdoor living tend to show one type of person. Now, what happens in that is that the community that's viewing that, again, doesn't see their mirror, right? And so you don't join what you don't believe is there for you. I think while we can blame companies, I think there's also a part of our own community that we need to speak to, which is that if we're continuing, companies do what brings them dollars, right? So companies put up the people that are consuming, who they think is their customer base. We don't join these communities because we say things to each other like that's what white people do. And we don't go outside. We don't hike. We don't do this. I think there's a lot of our own community that buys into what other people tell us about ourselves. So I think there's some of that. I also think there's some of just, we are not, there's a part of the conversation that just doesn't want us involved. And I think, so it's threefold. I think there's a selling to a community that buys from them and we're not it. I think there's us negatively talking to ourselves and taking us out of conversations that we belong in. And then I think there's an actual desire to showcase and highlight white faces. And that I think goes across lines. I think sometimes it's surprising to people in outdoor sectors and environment sectors that kind of exclusivity also feeds into that world, but I think it reaches all corners at this point.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to agree that just by getting involved in this lifestyle, especially us, this generation, I'm sure many generations too, because we it's actually really beautiful how much we've seen so many different ages of Black people. I mean, all the way up to middle-aged and everything else in between. But I think, something in our younger generation is really kind of bringing that discussion to the forefront. Because, when we started this, I mean, our parents were like, echoing what you said, I mean, our parents were like, oh, it was so foreign. It was just foreign. I mean, it was just something that, we don't do. So when we decided that we were going to do this, it was very first of all, it was left field, and then it was unfamiliar territory. But I can say our parents, and even other people that we touch, because we're doing it, it opens up that discussion of, no, it's not just a white thing or whatever, you know what I mean? It is something that is for everybody if you make it for yourself. So
absolutely. I think there's a certain amount of we hear in the dialogue and the discussion that's happening right now in the world about us taking back, right? Reclaiming. And I think there's something special about being out and reclaiming your freedom, reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your joy. I think that we for so long have accepted that this is how we should be doing things. And I think if there's anything that either COVID or the civil rights movement has taught us is like none of that shit mattered. And and you should be looking for what brings something that matters to you, and living only for that at this point. And our lives are at stake. And so you living your life to the best of your ability, I feel like should be your main focus right now.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so last question, which is kind of just a conclusion. So what do you want listeners to gain from this interview?
Sorry, I want to interject just for 1 second because you mentioned age, and I just want to touch on like, so we're 40, and sometimes people look at this as like you either have to do this in your 20s or when you're retired. And for all of those who are in the 40s, 50s sector, this is a wonderful time to be doing it. You do not need to be super young, and so you are just excited about life and you don't need to have already done everything, and so you're ready to just settle and travel. You can be right in the thick of it and be ready just to make changes, and it can work.
Yes, that was good. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's so true.
There's so many stigmas. I mean, it's crazy. It comes with so many stigmas and restrictions and rules, and it's just do it.
Just be yourself.
Just be. And I mean, and something that I've kind of learned in this lifestyle, real quick, was that van life, or our just nomad living, tiny home living period is just like a part of who you are. Like, still do your career. You know what I mean? Still do your thing. You just happen to live in a schoolie or a van or a bus, or you know what I'm saying? You just, that's just like a part of you. I think some people think that now that I'm living this lifestyle, I can no longer, do my career. It's a whole career change. And no, you're just changing your living. You're just changing your living conditions. You're just changing your home style, but you're still you, So I thank you for definitely saying that. Yeah, that was amazing. Okay, so just a conclusion, just a wrap up. What do you want our viewers who are mostly, current Black nomads and aspiring Black nomads, what do you want them to gain from this interview?
Oh my God, we live in a bus and travel full time. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I think I want to touch on the money thing. So as I mentioned, we have sponsors on board. I highly suggest people looking for sponsorship. I did not have a social media following. My husband does not have a social media account. This was really just about reaching out to people and explaining our story. And you'd be surprised how many products, how many companies, especially because you are people of color, will want to work with you. I actually have a book that I put out last week called 7 Steps to Free Products. It's sponsors for Nomads, and it's how to get free products for your brand, for your build from your favorite brand. You can go to my Instagram page, which is Sundari Bliss, and you can click on the link. But I think it's important to know, like, you also don't have to have all the money yourself. We have gotten everything from our solar to our wood to appliances, totally sponsored from companies. And so don't count yourself out by looking at your bank account. There are ways around all of this. And I think the book would be super helpful. So it's sponsored for Nomads, and it's on my Instagram page.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna make sure we gonna make sure that gets circulated around.
And definitely shout out your Instagram handle too. That way everybody can know. Like,
one more time for us, just to make sure people hear it.
So on Instagram, I am Sundari Bliss, which is SUNDARIBLISS, Sundari Bliss. My website is blissout.org. And so that's where books and travel information is held. And my blog is namasteusa.blog. And I travel talking about race and peace and injustice in this country.
Awesome.
Oh yeah,
Definitely
that's
everybody,
amazing.
yes. Everybody who's gonna be listening to this needs to follow that,
Yes.
needs to check it out. So
Yeah.
that's dope.
Especially the 7 steps,
Yes.
because that, you know, I think that's gonna be really useful for a lot of people who want to do this lifestyle, but are just trying to navigate it and how to make it sustainable. Yeah, that was extremely valuable. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.